And so the tragedy begins again. Monday was too hard, and she needed a moment. How quaint. Imagine failing to film yourself sitting around in your apartment for the thousandth time and calling it a mental reset. If I needed a sabbatical every time I faced mild inconvenience, I'd be in permanent retirement. And it was something stupid like a barista getting an order wrong and it shattered her world. My iced mocha had one too many ice cubes. I must reflect. I must heal. But no one wanted the monologue. Just pick up the camera and lie to us like you normally do. And then, be still my loathing heart, she tells us about the April Fool joke she planned, for April 2nd. Her sense of timing's as broken as her scale. She said, I've never done an April Fool's joke before. And honestly, she still hasn't. Pretending to leave YouTube, pretending to work a job. I've seen toddlers commit to more convincing fantasy. And then we arrive at the segment she believes elevates her content. The oracle cards. The mystical art of pulling vague affirmations while surrounded by the scent of takeout. She really thinks the universe sent her a crow to validate skipping therapy. She thinks she's giving I'm a witch now because I buy crystals, but she's just giving home goods, not high priestess. If she were any more obsessed with herself, she'd be orbiting her own ego. But I will say, titling your vlog My Ex's Wife is Obsessed with Me is inspired. It's a delusion, probably, but an efficient one. Maximum bait in minimum words. I approve of the marketing, if not the message. And copying reaction channels? You're not copying them, Amber. We all know that. They know it, we know it, everyone knows it. If you were, you might learn how to construct a narrative, or a salad. But I'm sure this will be another week of meandering nonsense, interrupted by her gastrointestinal symphony and whatever meal she's eating like a Sims character who's glitched at the dining table. She emerges from her live stream, her version of the trenches, and rewards herself with a neatly weighed steak and potato triumph. 570 calories of delusion served on a bed of self-congratulation. Stunning. A culinary miracle achieved upright in a living room while probably not wearing trousers. I weighed everything, she says. Girl, you didn't even sit down. I don't trust a single number from someone measuring radishes with her fingers like it's 1634 and the scale hasn't been invented yet. And then the very next clip, a leftover montage, complete with fried egg and radish, because she's quirky, you guys. The calories are logged, the egg yolk is perfect, and the finger food etiquette is absent. She eats like a crow at a bus stop. But the real feast is the emotional vulnerability, straight from trauma to table, because nothing screams balanced nutrition like discussing dissociation over fried potatoes. I don't want to bother you with my nonsense, she says, 15 minutes into a 3-hour monologue. Amber, if you didn't want to bother us, just don't. But instead we get this. We get it, life is hard. But this isn't a therapy session. It's a vlog. Video log, not video lament. The meal was fine, the calories were counted, the radishes were raw, and the trauma was, as always, medium rare and served with a wink. But let us never forget, when Amberlynn says this might not be the most exciting vlog, that's the only truth she tells. So cheers to that. More trauma? Or are we finally going to hit the segment where the ex's wife is obsessed with her? I'm laying out my pearls in preparation. But no. She returns bearing tidings from the Temple of Bezos, an Amazon haul, a waste, a declaration that logic is on life support. Let us begin with the tragedy of the missing Fitbit. A modern epic, our heroine ventures into the mythic chaos of the package room, an ungoverned realm where cardboard dreams go to die, and fails to find the device that was meant to rescue her from walking uncounted. And so, naturally, her solution is to wait a few more days. Not to, say, contact the front desk or check the tracking. No, she must wait. Like a damsel in a particularly uninspiring fairy tale pining for her fitness tracker. Then come the cleaning refills, which is an odd flex coming from someone who has documented terrible hygiene habits. But go on, please, enlighten us with your tales of hygiene. And then 50 scrunchies. 50 of them, because apparently they flee in the night like Victorian ghosts. Tell me again how this is the behaviour of someone with too many hobbies. And then, and this is where my soul left my body, the air fryer liners that don't fit the air fryer. She measures her earrings but not her equipment. Clear priorities. And also apparently chip clips are now just to help keep bags shut like bags of carrots, radish, chips, whatever. It's groundbreaking. It's like she thinks she invented storage. And then we enter the jewellery portion. And I must say, for someone so deeply entrenched in a minimalist spiritual healing phase, she's remarkably enthusiastic about cheap earrings. And we can't forget the notebooks. The notebooks ranked by aesthetic like they're in a pageant. This is my favourite because it has cherries and bows and says I'm just a girl. Yes, we know. A girl standing in front of the camera begging for serotonin via retail. And with that, I must ask the obvious. Did she ever find the Fitbit? It's probably still there buried under the pile of notebooks and broken dreams. Ah yes, the great braid conspiracy of 2025. A tale so ludicrous and dripping with delusion that even I needed a moment to recalibrate. She begins with what I can only assume is meant to be vulnerability. I'm not wearing makeup today, she says. A brave admission, almost as brave as filming breakfast for dinner with carrots in high definition. And now we're supposed to believe she's being accused of braid theft. Is she under the impression that hairdos are copyrighted? Apparently. She seems to believe there's a secret shadow court of reaction channels monitoring her hair, as if a side braid's an act of intellectual property infringement. Darling, it's hair, not a dissertation. Just ignore it. It's not stalking, it's just braiding, she says. Imagine being this unhinged over 2 strands of hair. She claims quite sincerely that drinking water is also being seen as theft, that someone on the internet believes she's copying them by hydrating. This isn't commentary. This is a performance art piece called Delusion. And then, of course, she's back into a Dickens cosplay. Back to the group homes and gruel. I was never taught to drink water. What? Was she raised in a cave system? She'd have us believe that her entire adult struggle with water stems from being handed milk as a child. If I blamed every adult dysfunction on beverages I encountered in 1999, I'd be in prison. She speaks as though a reaction channel asking "Are you copying me?" is the equivalent of a federal investigation. Amber, no one owns hydration, no one patented the braid. It's not a crime. It's not a controversy. It's not even a conversation, it's just noise. Next week she'll be saying the sun is accusing her of copying its glow. I'm just begging this woman to log off and go and touch something other than her notebooks. She emerges from the shower, damp, dazed, and clutching her emotional support AirPod, already absorbing Trisha Paytas' awkward podcast energy like it's therapy. If that's her source of personal growth, I fear the tree has already rotted. She listens to Trisha voluntarily, and then she declares herself the best thing to ever happen to the internet. And it's not even the low point. She films herself worshipping a fried egg as if it's a divine relic. A fried egg, a fried egg, a fried egg, she says, like it's a Gregorian chant at the Church of Delusion. The audio quality is repulsive. It's probably changed my DNA. I have never heard a radish sound like a war crime until now. The lip smacking alone took 5 years off my life. And then the best part, she just casually admits she's been receiving mysterious government checks for years, and has never questioned it. No context, no curiosity, just, why do they keep sending me money, lol? That's not normal. Most people would call a tax advisor. She just calls no one. She receives unexplained funds from the government and just shrugs while eating vegetables like a badly dressed gremlin. She's the protagonist and antagonist in a story that's less slice of life and more mug of delusion served with a side of radish. And once again, she is not stalking reaction channels. She's stalking sanity itself, and sanity is sprinting faster than she could ever go. And so we reach the section of our programme I like to call Calories at Bingo, a tragedy in 3 acts, starring Grease, beige food, and delusion. She enters the room draped in lace, proudly declaring "Thank God for laundry," as if cleanliness is a character arc. She's wearing the same dress in a different colour and wants applause for the innovation. A fashion guru, truly. Someone alert Paris Fashion Week. Tacky lace is back and it's going to bingo. She says she's out with the old and in with the new, so decluttering? If you call stacking boxes while ordering scrunchies in bulk a routine, then yes, Marie Kondo's shaking. And then we get the bingo food diary. It's a monologue so enthusiastic and so childlike that it could be performed in a school play by a 6-year-old with a Lunchable. These pretzels were my mum's, but I tried one. This was my quesadilla, it had cheese, and then I had 2 cookies, not 3, and I gave the other one to my stepdad, and then later I had chicken strips and wedges and ranch. Does she know she's 34 years old? I suspect she believes adulthood's just ordering your own sour cream. The calorie count was a banger, she says. One imagines her logging this food into Noom with the giddy pride of a toddler colouring inside the lines for the first time. She really said, "I didn't eat the bread, so keep that in mind," as if that's what's going to tip the scale. Yes, skip the bun but deep fry the shame. Classic Amberlynn cuisine. She closes out this segment by assuring us she still has hundreds of calories of wiggle room, and I think we're supposed to be proud. Inspired, even. But I'm not inspired. I'm exhausted. I've watched a grown woman gleefully detail a snack breakdown like it's the climax of a Marvel film. I've heard the phrase chicken strips uttered with more reverence than she's ever said therapy. This isn't content, it's just chaos in calorie form. And we're only halfway through the vlog. Should we even proceed, or should I just fashion a noose from a scrunchie? The fever dream continues with perfume and a casino. Somewhere in the middle, she compares calorie restrictions to financial planning, as if she were a hedge fund manager rather than a woman deep-throating catfish tacos. She says, think of your calories like money in the bank. She's literally counting calories like Monopoly cash. Monopoly isn't a bad comparison, because her strategy appears to be hoard indulgences, bankrupt restraint, and cry when someone does better than she does. We're watching a carousel. A very loud, very beige carousel that smells like Sabrina Carpenter perfume and fried regret. But we do get to see her mother, our first moment of lucidity. Mama Lynn, bless her resilient little heart, delivers more charm in 3 seconds than Amber manages in 30 minutes. She seems warm, she's gracious, she smiles like she means it. I wonder if she actually knows what Amber does with all this footage, but she's a woman of age and experience, so of course she does. She's just choosing grace where Amberlynn chooses grievance. She tells us how the salsa was a flavourless horror compared to the best catfish taco she's ever had. She repeats it. Repetition is the only literary device she's ever mastered. She documents everything like she's assembling evidence for a trial that no one asked for. Exhibit A, catfish. Exhibit B, tomato paste salsa. Exhibit C, her mother's dignity somehow still intact. She discusses going bowling and thinks about bowling shoes. She contemplates them like they're relics of an ancient curse. The horror of communal toe space. The plight of pre-sanitized soul. It's finally dawned on her that other people exist and that they also have feet. A revelation, truly. But really, thinking about it, I wouldn't want to put my feet in something that Amber had her nasty toes in. So maybe she's not wrong. And she still wants to go mini-golfing though, so that's character growth, right? Hardly. It's just the illusion of activity. She treats outings the way she treats therapy. An aesthetic, not an effort. And we cannot gloss over the cinematic climax of 2 cars parked closely together. Amber, that's not scandal, that's just Tuesday. It's also horribly pedestrian, and yet here she is chronicling the boring with the solemnity of a wartime memoir. And then we reach the digital purge, the scorched earth method of public relations. She's taken it upon herself to declutter her community tab. Not for damage control, not to erase years of documented contradiction, contempt and chaos. No, just for aesthetic reasons. Naturally. She deleted everything manually, she says, 1 post at a time. An act of devotion rivaled only by monks illuminating manuscripts. She calls them nonsense and old news. And yet it's this very nonsense that built her. The archaeological strata of her own undoing. She's not editing her past. She's fleeing from it with all the grace of a toddler in Crocs. She was definitely hoping that people wouldn't notice, but they did. People have memory, and a playlist of every lie she's ever told. So let her wipe the slates. We've got the receipts. And then the grand saga of the egg intolerance returns. A riveting installment in the culinary horror series that is Amberlynn's digestive history. This week's episode, scrambled, fried, or violently expelled from the body. She really thinks she can outrun her own biology with a drizzle of yolk and a whisper of denial. It's inspirational. After decades of alleged gastrointestinal warfare, she has finally discovered the cure to her affliction. Simply murder the egg. Scorch it, annihilate it, reduce it to cinders and ash. But she got whimsical. A touch of runny yolk, a moment of vulnerability, and now her body responds with a medieval plague. And so now she sits there whispering about Legos and nausea like a Victorian ghost in the drawing room. Nothing says self-care during a bout of digestive ruin quite like fiddling with Technic Lego, which, by the way, is not a personality trait, no matter how many times she reminds us it's very hard. You'd think she was laying the eggs herself, the way she talks about every yolk-stained trauma. The egg has taken on the role of tragic romantic lead, body-hating villain, and misunderstood friend in the space of 5 minutes. She claims this intolerance began in her childhood and then crescendoed through the decades like an opera. What she fails to mention is that it only flares up when the plot demands pity. It's always eggs, never the third quesadilla or the mystery meat from bingo night. And naturally, we must be updated in real time, as if her stomach lining were live streaming the drama. She's just a woman with nothing to say, and all the time in the world to say it. About eggs. If I hear fried egg one more time, I might scramble my own brain. In garlic salt. And so we reach this week's sermon from Preacher Lynn, broadcasting live from the pulpit of the fridge of righteous indignation. She emerges to inform the unwashed masses that we are in fact dumb for daring to question her understanding of the calorie. I've been doing this for decades, she says. Yes, and the results are eerily absent, are they not? It's wild how she can measure broccoli to the gram, and yet consistently overshoot her weight goals by hundreds of pounds. It's tedious, it's predictable, and it's exhausting. She counts calories the way a gambler counts winnings, loudly, defensively, and only when it suits her delusion. She pouts like it's a confession booth, wailing about how we mere mortals cannot possibly comprehend the science behind her pre-portioned rice. God forbid we look at the food. We can count. We can count the years, the weigh-ins, the weekly resets, the endless loops of this time it's different. We can count the calories and the lies just fine. But what this comes down to is that she doesn't want to do what I ate today videos anymore. Of course she doesn't. They expose the emperor's diet with no clothes. But at least she has her rice cups, and her delusions. And then, here it is. Buried beneath a 27-minute talk on eggs, we finally reach the headline. The ex-wife obsession, the scandal, the sweater. A fabric-based declaration of war. Amberlynn believes she is the sun, and all who orbit her do so with sinister intent. A woman wears a cardigan and suddenly we have Fatal Attraction playing out in the Target clearance aisle. Don't get me wrong, this woman's attachment to Amberlynn Reid is crazy. Like, just let it go. But Amber is completely delusional with a hint of gloat. As though we're meant to be impressed that Amber was the consolation prize in a sordid little betrayal buffet. Sorry, buffet. Your wife cheated on you with me. She delivers it like it's empowering, but all I see is someone gnawing on the bones of an old scandal. It's quite fascinating. She accuses others of being obsessed while filming a monologue from the echo chamber of her lonely apartment, cackling about past dalliances as if she hasn't openly cheated in her own relationships. She projects so loudly I can hear her from across the world without subtitles. Amberlynn Reid, the eternal protagonist in a fantasy where every ex, every hater, every girl in braids is somehow deeply invested in her existence. But Amberlynn, your legacy is a rotation of failed relationships and calorie counts. You are not feared. You're not admired. You're not stalked. You're just documented and occasionally mocked, but never envied. So take off the crown. It clashes horrifically with the narrative. She really remains the most committed performance artist. This week she played the tragic heroine, the misunderstood genius, the dietary martyr, the Lego genius, and the mistress with the heart of gold. She's a one-woman cabaret, off-Broadway, never closing. She speaks of her egg intolerance like it's a Shakespearean curse. One might think the yolk itself betrayed her in a past life. I feel like I have the flu. No, you feel like a person who eats a dozen eggs a day and stands to eat them. The only thing more battered than her stomach lining is her credibility. And yet she always pivots, always returns to the oracle deck as if divine validation might cleanse the sins of a 1,213 calorie bingo binge. She ends with a self-love sermon, because of course she does. When all else fails, wrap it up in gratitude journaling and vague affirmations about putting yourself first, which frankly she's never struggled with. This vlog was a symphony of distraction. From braids and ghosted Fitbits to rage at calorie counting critiques and a final act of pettiness about an ex's wife who is somewhere right now living a cardiganed life, unaware that she's been cast as the villain in this soap opera. Amberlynn, if you want us to believe that the world is obsessed with you, stop telling us about how obsessed you are with yourself. When she posted her first weekly vlog, I was almost tricked. I was almost lured in and convinced by the illusion of change. The shimmer of routine, the whisper of introspection. But it was just a hologram of progress projected over the same tired ruins. What she's doing now is worse than her old content. Not because it's different, but because it pretends to be. She's not just spinning in circles, she's spray painting the same broken carousel and calling it a fresh start. This weekly vlog series is like watching a bandaged wound fester beneath motivational stickers. There's an almost sinister new layer of manipulation now. It's more curated, more self-congratulatory, and yet even more deeply segregated from reality. Her weaponization of pseudo-therapy language, her cultish devotion to calorie apps while shoveling in eggs to fill the void, the weekly readings disguised as self-love, it's spiritual tax fraud. She's found a way to brand regression. And the worst part is she genuinely believes that this is her redemption arc. We are not watching a woman improve. We are watching a woman monetize the illusion of improvement while basking in manufactured victimhood and crying foul when anyone holds her accountable. This isn't a comeback, it's a content graveyard. Until next time, may your eggs be rubbery, your calories counted, and your tarot cards reveal a shred of self-awareness.